Hey sis, welcome back to the Kingdom Sisterhood where faith meets real life. I wanted to invite you in today and have an open and honest conversation and share with you a bit about my journey to faith. If you're new here, my name is Kathy. I'm a faith-based life coach, and here you'll find real conversations about life, faith, and kingdom leadership, all to empower you on living boldly and confidently pursuing your God-given calling. So come on in and let's hang out. So today I wanted to share with you a bit about my own personal faith journey. This unscripted video is just going to be me openly sharing a bit about myself with you and my journey and coming to faith and things that I've learned in hopes that it will empower you on your journey as well. I did not grow up in a faith-filled home. My parents were not believers. We didn't talk about faith or religion or anything of that sort. But in elementary school growing up, three of my girlfriends did go to church. And just through sheer invitation of, what are you doing on Sundays? Why don't you come and hang out at church with us? Turned into me accepting that invitation. And I think getting my first real exposure to faith and God. And if you can imagine elementary school, I would get up on my own as a kid, get ready, and walk to church by myself. Luckily, the church that everybody went to was actually on my street. So I just had to get up and walk and go to church. But for me as a mom, I can't even imagine my kids at maybe 10 years old getting up and just leaving the house on a Sunday morning and going to church by themselves. But when I look back, I can really see the hand of God on my life. The fact that He planted a seed all the way back then of starting a relationship with Him. After elementary school, I did kind of veer away from my faith and I didn't go to church. And I don't even think I really thought about faith for a really, really long time. And then comes the dark night of the soul. So, dark night of the soul is a reference to having a moment in your life where you just start questioning, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? What am I here for? I feel like I've been created for something completely different other than what I'm doing. There's got to be more to life than this. In that moment of having these questions come up, I started to seek something bigger than myself. And that really led me on a journey that started with spirituality. My mom and my partner at the time, they sat me down and had an intervention and introduced me to something called The Secret, which was an introduction to law of attraction. And we will save all of that discussion on woo-woo to faith and receiving Christ. We'll save that for another video. But for today, I just wanted to share that opened me up to a belief that there is something bigger than us out there. And while I pursued that avenue of spirituality, every road seemed to lead to God or Jesus. And every time I would end up at God or Jesus, I would just shut it down completely and switch lanes and start pursuing something else, looking for inner peace and fulfillment, happiness. I want to say, I just knew something was missing, but I didn't know what it was. And so I kept seeking. After about 3 or 4 different types of, they call them modalities, every single road was leading me back to Jesus. And there came a point where I started to question myself and wonder, why am I avoiding going down that path? What is it that is stopping me from wanting to explore organized religion? It was through that exploration that I realized that I had my own limiting beliefs about God and religion and Jesus. And a lot of that came from personal experiences. I remember meeting somebody who was of faith, and I remember her saying to me that because I had had my children out of wedlock, that I was going to go to hell no matter what I did. And I remember thinking to myself and carrying it with me for a really long time, thinking, why would I want anything to do with a religion that would go around and say something so mean and, at the time, what I felt hateful towards somebody? She'll never remember how she made me feel with that kind of comment, but it definitely left a lasting impression on me. But When you pursue multiple avenues and they all lead to the same road, I think at some point you have to, and you owe it to yourself to explore what that is, because I don't think that it's by coincidence that all these roads kept leading back. I think God was always with me and He was leading me, but He was also allowing me the power of free will to make my own choices. But ultimately, every single avenue was leading back to Him. And so at that time, I had a really close friend, and her and I had really explored spirituality together. And she had gone on a trip, and I reached out to her to say, "Hey, I've got something on my mind. Do you have time to talk?" And I don't know why, but this is a core memory for me etched in my brain. I remember being at work, going downstairs to the cafeteria and sitting in this like rounded red chair to have a talk with her. And she was in like, I think she was in Guatemala at the time. She was somewhere really far away. And I started to explain to her that I don't know why, but I've been having this calling that I feel like I need to go to church. And I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I need to explore organized religion. And the weirdest thing happened. She said to me, "Oh my goodness, I am going through the exact same thing. And I have the exact same feeling. I can't believe this," which is really crazy that we could have that same revelation at the exact same time. And so she said, "I'm going to book a flight. I'm coming home. Let's go find a church together." So she came home and we did something that we called church hopping, where we decided that we would say yes to any invitation to church. So if anybody invited us to church, then we would say yes and go. And so we went to quite a few different churches together. And finally, I landed in a home church where I felt like I was at home. And through that experience, I said yes to receiving Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I got baptized there. And also, I had taken a course called Alpha. And Alpha is an amazing course. And really, it was through Alpha that I really came to say yes to Jesus and decided to get baptized.
This is Kathy, and Kathy has been journeying with us actually for over a year. And an amazing story of hers that she first joined us in Alpha. The following term, she took our Shape course, and she's now actually serving in Alpha as well. And we are so excited that she is taking this next step in her journey as well to be baptized in water. And you can see the joy that is on her face as well. So, Kathy, it is our joy and privilege to be able to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Good job.
Kathy, give him a hug. Just give him a big hug. There you go.
And after that, it was kind of a natural transition for me to become an Alpha leader. And from there, I was leading 3 Alphas a year from January to December through the church. And I really loved it. I felt so in tune with my calling. It gave me the opportunity to meet new people and explore faith together and ask really great questions that they could explore on their own, and giving them a safe space to explore the answers. And one thing that was really consistent in Alpha was a lot of people that I met, they grew up in Catholicism, in Catholic faith. And at some point, they decided that they renounced their faith and they wanted nothing to do with religion. And they were now seeking again something more because there was a feeling of absence in their life, or they were struggling with depression, anxiety, or they had been through some sort of life traumatic event and they were trying to make sense of it, but they were just seeking something in their life. And that led them to our church, which led them into Alpha to explore life's really big questions when it comes to religion. And I think after meeting so many people who had been through this experience, again, it just sprinkled in more room for judgment and opinion about the Catholic faith. And so I think by the end of that, I really did have judgment of Catholic faith without really knowing anything about it. At that time, I had, always said that I was done with having kids. I raised 2 boys, 2 amazing boys. I'm so lucky. I loved being a boy mom through all of the sports and all of the activities. I was at a point where I knew I didn't want any more kids. Insert God. because God doesn't give me what I pray for, He gives me what I needed. So at that time, I could have never guessed, never anticipated that I would have another child, let alone get to be a girl mom, which was the best surprise and blessing I could have ever hoped for. When Kaya did come, it wasn't without trial. It wasn't easy. I didn't just get pregnant and then have a baby. If you can imagine, I was 44 years old. So for me, the shock of like, wow, I can still get pregnant and carry full term and have a baby, that's amazing. The truth is it was a really, really difficult and challenging pregnancy. It was the start of the pandemic and everything was closed down. I wasn't even able to see a doctor. It's crazy, until 7 months pregnant. So leading up to that time, what had happened is that I started spotting and I thought I was going to miscarry. So I went to the emergency room. It turned out that they said that I had a small tear and that I would be okay, but bed rest is what's best. So I went home and I was on bed rest. And then another time I started spotting again. So I went back to the hospital emergency room. And this time when I left, they told me that I have a condition that's going to lead to some bleeding when I give birth. And so, it was a bit alarming, but the doctor assured me I'd be okay. And I didn't say I didn't think anything of it, but I didn't think anything of it. And so when I go home, my doctor calls me 2 days later and said, "Did the emergency room talk to you about your diagnosis?" And I said, "Yeah, they just mentioned that I might have a bit more bleeding when I give birth, but it's nothing to worry about." And my doctor said to me, "Yeah, no, you need to go and Google this condition. You have something called placenta accreta." I've never heard of that in my life. I carried two children before, never heard of anything like this. And long story short, I Google it, and basically Google tells me I'm going to die. I'm going to bleed to death. And so then my husband and I are then having conversations of, do we choose my life or her life? And as a Christian and as a believer, the only option was to choose her life. So going through that whole traumatic ordeal, we didn't share it with anybody. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my children. And when it came time to telling them that I was pregnant, both of my boys did not have a good reaction to it. We ended up having to pack up and move over 100 miles away. Both my boys decided to stay in the city we were living in. So now it meant that I was losing my home. I was losing both my boys, in a sense of, we had been very close forever, for their entire lives, super close. And now I'm moving to a city I don't know, into a house that's not my own. And to be really honest with you, this is why I'm saying it. The blessing didn't come without a burden. At the point that my family doctor she agreed to see me, because she had originally said no. I go in to get a checkup and she pulls out her little fetal monitor and she tells me that she can't find a heartbeat and my baby might be dead. So she thinks that maybe I should try and go and get an ultrasound to see.
Bruh.
So you can only imagine my state of absolute sheer panic, terror, bawling my eyes out. Even when I went to go for the ultrasound, the technician told me, "Please stop crying, ma'am, because I can't get a good picture. I really need you to sit still." And so what she ended up doing was, through the ultrasound scan, you can also hear the heartbeat. She found the heartbeat and then said, ma'am, listen, I want you to hear your baby's heartbeat." And I feel emotional. It was so long ago, but just the memory and talking about it, it was such a traumatic experience. So the blessing, one of the biggest blessings of my life, of I get to be Kaya's mom. And I thank God every day. I thank him every day for choosing me to be her mom. It didn't come without burden. It didn't come without sacrifice. He stripped me down to nothing, to bare bones. I had no job. I had no income. I was away from my boys. We moved out of my dream home. Anything that I had associated my identity to, God took away from me in that season. And And only looking back, because we're smarter in hindsight, only looking back can I see the blessing in that burden, because when I was stripped down to nothing, it really did bring me to a place of only depending on him. I remember I would strap Kaya in the carrier, the front carrier, and I would go for walks around the neighborhood, literally talking out loud. People see me, might think I'm crazy, but I would literally walk around the neighborhood declaring, God, thank you so much for going ahead and making a way where I can't see one. Father God, thank you for going and choosing a house for us. Thank you for choosing somewhere for us to live. Thank you for restoring our lives. Thank you for restoring. Thank you for going ahead and making a way. And I would just repeat it over and over and over. I would put on my headphones. I would listen to sermons. I remember having Kaya in my arms when she was a baby, turning on worship music on the living room TV and just singing to her. I remember tears streaming down my face and just singing worship music. And I'm reminded of the story of Job, because at the time when I was first diagnosed with placenta accreta, I was told to be on bed rest and try not to get out of the bed at all, even to go to the washroom. Somebody at church had recommended that I read the book of Job, and that was the first time that I read it. And recently, as I've been reflecting on my experience, I was reminded that I need to go back and reread the book of Job, because I could see similarities in my experiences of everything was taken away from me, but I didn't even realize that in the midst of having nothing, I still praised him and I still believed in him and I still called on him and I still cried out for him and I was still seeking him and I was yearning for him. And I didn't realize when I was going through it, because I was so hurt and I was so broken, and the restoration of my heart has taken pretty much 5 years for me to feel restored, where I have joy and I have peace. I had tremendous peace that could only come from Jesus, not from my circumstances, only coming from him, in really strengthening my relationship with him and being obedient and showing up for the calling, even when I am so doubtful. I post videos and get 24 views, but yet I still keep trying to do it because he's calling me to do it. And I'm just being obedient, because maybe if there's one person out there, one woman that needs this message today, she's you, and you're here and you're still with me. And that's because of my obedience to God's calling, even when I'm not seeing results of the world that define my success. To me, my success is continuing my walk with Jesus, continuing to be obedient, even when I don't see the big picture, even when I don't see success by the world's standards. But I'm still here and I'm still showing up. And I love to call those miracle moments, when we're able to witness God's goodness in our lives, when we're able to do self-reflection and actually see the growth that God has brought us through. That I can look back on all of these events all the way back to my childhood. And even though I wasn't an avid believer, he still had his hand on me. He was guiding me and leading me. He was planting seeds on me with Pastor Paul in that church, and Meredith, the youth group leader. Why do I remember these people's names? Because God imprinted them on my spirit, because he knew he was going to call me later in life, and he planted those seeds from all the way back then. A broken little girl, a girl who had endured physical, mental, and verbal and sexual abuse, and nobody around her knew. God put his hand on her and planted a seed of goodness, of faith, that took a long time to blossom. But I believe because that mustard seed of faith was planted in me from a child, that's what brought me back to a space of seeking him and truly seeking him. The blessing of Kaya coming into my life was truly an act of God, because where I was declaring, I'm done with having kids, I don't want to have kids, I said that for so long, God gave me what I needed in that season of my life. That's how I made it through. That's how I made it through being stripped down to nothing, was the goodness of her. Her middle name is Heaven, because I literally said that she is a gift from heaven. because only God could have come down and had me have a baby at 44 and nurse her for 18 months. Only God. So now, fast forward, we're approaching the time of starting to think about she's going to start school. And one thing that was really important for me as a mom this time around is I really wanted her to know Jesus and to grow in her faith and to walk out life knowing Jesus and having a relationship with him. And I believe part of that is demonstrating. I believe that it's not just about talking to her and teaching her, but having her see me walk out my faith. That was really important to me. And so when I started to think about her going to school, our academic systems right now are very broken here in Canada. And one thing that I felt was really important to me is I wanted her to go to a Catholic school, even though I wasn't Catholic, because the thought of her walking in faith, being at school where they talk about Jesus, I really wanted that for my daughter. And so I made a decision that I wanted to explore the Catholic faith. And so I called my local parish and I inquired if they have classes to become Catholic. And so we went through all the details and I enrolled and then talked it through with my husband. And then he decided that he wanted to do it too. So I was so overjoyed that he wanted to come and go through this process. So it's about a year that we have to go to class every week. And there are some breaks in between, like Christmas and stuff. But it's about a year every week. We prayed about it and we believed God to be able to provide for us so we could afford a babysitter to come every single week and watch Kaya for us. Lucky for us, one of my sons lives 4 minutes from us. And so he had agreed to watch her for one night a month. One night a month turned into 2 nights a month. And then really quickly, it evolved into every week. And the blessing in that, it's all God. Because what that's now done for not just me, but for Kaya, is they developed a relationship that they didn't have before because they didn't live together. So this immense blessing of Kaya getting to now know her brother and build a relationship with him was, for me as a mother, oh, just heart bursting, heart expanding. But again, do you see the hand of God in this? That he made a way where I didn't see one, where not even my son saw a way. He made a way for it to happen and for it to work. And as a result, it brought them so much closer and developed a bond between the two of them. We went through the process of learning about Catholicism. And let me tell you, the priest that was leading these classes, he was only there for 1 year and he did one of these courses called RCIA. And he was the most amazing priest. I mean, Kaya loved him. And I feel like that says a lot because she's very shy and she doesn't go to people. She doesn't like people. She doesn't talk about people. But she was so drawn to Father John. And he made the course so wonderful. He provided such a safe space for me to explore and challenge and ask questions that are real. Through that process, I really did come to appreciate a lot of aspects of Catholicism that I maybe didn't understand before. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have gone through it. It absolutely grew my faith. And so going through that process, we did get baptized, and that allowed us for Kaya to get baptized, which was a absolutely beautiful and memorable experience that I am truly so grateful for. And then that allowed us to register her in Catholic school, where she just completed her first year of school. And my extreme excitement for her to finish her first year of school, I can't even begin to explain to you. When I received her report card this year, I cried. And I felt like I really wanted to share that with you as a testimony of faith. When I look back on my journey and how my journey started with so many people turning away from their Catholic beliefs and their Catholic traditions and forming my own judgments of the faith and I want to say ignorantly because I had no idea about it, turned into something so beautiful and such a beautiful experience. And again, the hand of God on it, that he knew the exact moment that I needed to be exactly where I was to go to that specific Catholic church to be led through the faith by a wonderful, sweet, and kind man that really opened my eyes and took time to explain things to me about the faith. That is the hand of God, because everything was divinely conspired by him so that I would be there at that exact moment to go to that exact parish with that exact priest to become Catholic. I wanted to share with you some of Kaya's report card this year. So in the first section of her report card, it's about religious and family life education. And it says, Kaya actively participates in daily prayers in a reverent manner. She listens and thoroughly responds to Bible stories. Kaya participates in prayer, and she is always happy to be the weekly helper and leader during class prayers and activities. She should continue to express her wonder and take care of the marvelous things that God has created. The next section in our report card is belonging and contributing. And it says, Kaya recognizes that God created the world and that she is a steward of God's creations. She shows respect for the world as she brainstorms ways in which she can take care of the environment. Kaya participates in celebrations, special times, and days through song, activity, and prayer. She demonstrated understanding of the true meaning of Easter and prepared for its coming through engaging in Lenten activities. Kaya talks about the love of Jesus and God in relation to how we treat our friends and the world. She understands that God loves her and can look in the mirror and say what is really special about herself. We will continue to encourage Kaya to take pride in her talents, gifts, and to follow the teachings of the Catholic faith. I would read more, but I will stop there. To get to read that, for me, it just shows that God is always with us. This is more than I ever could have imagined. And I can tell you also that Kaya she just has this really kind, loving way about her. And the fact that she is in a school that can write something like that in her report card was exactly what I wanted. And I wanted for her. Her teachers have been great. At Easter time, I felt conflicted on how do I explain to her that Jesus dies, because we had never had that conversation. And they directed me to some really great videos that her and I spent a lot of time watching together and talking about, which led to reading through the Easter story in her Bible and getting a really good understanding. And she really did. And I feel so blessed that I get to do that with her, that I get to explore her faith. I get to explore my faith with her. And to get comments like that, to see that she's growing in faith in her relationship and her walk with Jesus, it just fills my heart with so much happiness. And I feel so grateful for the opportunity that we get to do this and experience this together. And I will continue to encourage her as much as I can along the way without pushing her or forcing her. If you've ever felt like it is too late to start over, maybe you're wondering if you missed it, I just want you to know that God, He's still pursuing you. He's still writing your story. He redeems the wandering. He meets us in our questioning. And He shows up in everyday moments, like a little girl's report card reminding her mama, you're doing just fine. Thanks for taking time to come on in and sit with me and get to know me a little bit more. My heart is really in this women's ministry, and I don't know how I'm going to get it all up and going and moving. What I do know is God is in it with me, and He didn't bring me this far to just leave me here. So this heart for this women's ministry that He has my heart on fire for. I'm just grateful for it all. And I'm grateful to be here. And I'm grateful that you're here because I just want to encourage women of faith to pursue their God-given calling with confidence. And so whatever I got to do to keep showing up here and encouraging women until my group of women shows up and finds me, I'm going to keep obeying. And I want you to confidently start saying yes to what God is calling you to do. You've got to do it scared. God is with you and He will provide for you. If this video encouraged you, don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more content like this, and I can't wait to get to know you more, sis. Stay encouraged, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.